Welcome to the future of automation. In this tutorial, I'm going to guide you through step by step on how to create a pickaxe. But not only a pickaxe, this is a pickaxe that you're going to be able to connect with make.com using APIs. Whether you're a beginner and you don't know a lot about make.com, or if you're an experienced developer, you're going to get something out of this video once you learn how to build in these API actions into your chat. It has all these different capabilities that are just waiting to be discovered. We have a new scenario. When you get a new scenario, this is the screen you're going to see. What you want to do is click on webhooks. This is where we're going to build our API. As you can see, we have 3 different types of webhooks. The one that we want to do is the trigger. We're going to use custom webhook, and so we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on that. That's going to be our trigger. Every automation that you create, make.com will need a trigger. This is the one we're going to use. Now it says choose a webhook. As you can see, once we do that, we do receive an address, a URL that we could use. This is our webhook. We can copy it and we're going to test this later. I'm going to click on OK. We're then going to click back here on webhooks again. We're going to click on actions, which is the webhook response. We're going to go ahead and connect those two together. Those two are connected together. And now we have completed the setup of our webhook. We'll go ahead and click on OK. In the body, you can see it says we're going to give it a return value. A return value is going to be static. We're going to do something simple. We're just going to say hello world. And then we're all set. Now we're going to move on to the next part, and we're going to test out this particular scenario to make sure everything is working correctly. And we're going to also define our parameters. We went to postman.com name. All right. And then we're going to give it a value of click any name. We're just going to say Thomas. I'm going to send name and Thomas, and that is it. Then we want to click send. Now, the important thing here is that to do this, we're going to click OK here. We're going to have to run once for this to pick up, and we should get a return value of hello world once we do our test. All right, so we're going to go ahead and run it through. We have to run this, then we click here, and then we're going to send, and then our response is going to show up in this area here. We go ahead and click, and we respond, and as you can see, it sent Thomas. You can see it up here as a query parameter, and then you can see the response. The response was 200, which is response request was successful. And then remember, we typed in the box hello world. We got the return value hello world. They know that it is working correctly inside of Postman. We can come back to make, we can click here. And as you can see, we have our output, and you can see that we received name and we received Thomas. So we know that it came in here and it's working correctly. If we come over here and click here, you can see that the input bungle was this here, hello world status 200. And then we were able to send this out. And you can see that if we come back over to Postman, this is what we got back. And we got the status of 200. Everything is working correctly. Now, one thing we can add to this test portion that we're doing here, we could go ahead and click here, click on here, and you can see in the webhook, we have the value, which is name. We can go ahead and say hello world, or we can say hello Thomas. Let's just take out the world, and then we're going to add the name, and that's it. Click OK. We're going to do another test, run this through, waiting for a response. Now we're going to change this name from Thomas. Let's just change it to something else. Let's just change this to Duckers. We have that. Then we're going to go ahead and hit send. We get our response 200, and you can see we have hello Duckerson. That's everything is working correctly. You can see in our query parameter, it's set here in the webhook. If we go back, we click here into our scenario, you can see that the name has transferred over the way that it should. And if we come here, hello, Thuggerson, status 200. Perfect. Everything's the way that it should be. We've tested out our API that we have set up inside of our webhook. Everything is working the way that it should. Now let's move on to the next step. Here we are in Pickaxe. We're going to go ahead and sign in. What we need to do now is create a new Pickaxe. We click here and create a new Pickaxe. We're going to create a chat. Go ahead and click here. Now, this particular chat is going to have a role. We're going to assign that. We're going to give it a name. The name of this particular chatbot is going to be Pronounce It. Its description of this Pickaxe is help pronounce. There it is. Now we're going to give it a role. For this, I'm just going to say help pronounce names. We'll keep it simple for now. We just want to create this that will be able to create an AP action that will attach to this. So we'll go ahead and click on continue. We're going to keep everything the same. We're going to click on publish. We have pronounce it, help pronounce difficult names. Then we're going to go to edit. Now we're going to move on. Now that we have this created, we're going to attach an API action. And so they call it act here. If we click here, it will show us different types of connected actions. Right now you can see there is no connected action yet. If you do look in here, you can see that there are some community type actions that are built in. We're not going to connect those. We're going to essentially create our own custom action. I call an AP action that's going to show up in here. So we're going to move on to the next step in the process. We have our Pickaxe. It's called Pronounce It. This is where we're going to attach our action. We can see we have prompt, config, learn, and then act. We're going to click here. What you're going to see is your actions library. I've already created this, but I'm going to show you how it is done. What you would do is you would click on new action, build new action, and then I'm going to click on that. And then what you're going to see is what I filled in the previous one, but it's as if I actually clicked on build a new action. So I gave it a name, pronounce it, API. The description is use make.com to help pronounce difficult names. The trigger prompt, I need help with the name. Then the function inputs, in this case it is name. Description, name to be pronounced. Example value would be Wilson. You can also put in other different types of variables to fit your environment. You may need to enter an API key or a password or other sensitive data. You would put that into this section here. The next part is you go into the action code. As you can see, this section here, just this section here, is already pre-built for you. Once you put your variable in here that you want to pull, that automatically gets populated here. And as you can see, it pulls this function name from the name that you gave it, and the function inputs are pulled from here where you put your input. In this case, I only have one, which is name, which is of a value of a string. Now, for make.com, you have the URL, and this URL is the webhook. Now, this is what I typed in here. If we look here, this is the webhook. This is the payload, which is a name. And then you have response equals request dot post, the URL, and of course the variable or payload here in JSON format. Then you do a print response text. For make.com, this is all that you need. So let's go over to make.com and I'll show you where I got this webhook value from. So if I come here, I go into webhooks, I click here, and as you can see, there is the webhook value. I would click copy address, and I would take that and I would just drop that right into this section here. Essentially, for using make.com, you need 4 lines of code to add: the URL, the payload, the response, and then the print. After you do that, you are all set. This here is what you will see is my pronounced names. This right here the webhooker will receive data from Pickaxe, from the pronounce it Pickaxe. Then it will come into here to Whisper, and it will essentially create a pronunciation of the name. It will store that into Google Drive. Then it will build out all of the information that you're going to see later. Then you have your webhook response. This is going to take all that information that's been built out here, and it's going to send it to the body through here, which is the result. And then you'll see that result in the Pickaxe. I'm just going to click cancel because that's already set. You can see that this is on and ready to run. We're going to come back over to Pickaxe. You would click Save Action. Then you would connect it. It's already connected here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and remove it. I'm going to say OK to removing. So you can see connected actions are nothing's there. It said you haven't connected any actions yet. I'm going to come here. I'm going to say connect. It says this action doesn't have any required variables. Don't worry about that. You're good to go because you've actually set up all of your variables in your action as I showed you previously. All you need to do is hit connect. Once you hit connect, we'll slide up here to the top and you can see that it is connected. We're good to go. Now we're going to test out our Pickaxe and make sure it's working correctly. Before I do that, there's one thing I do want to show you here that's very important. Your role has to be clearly defined. When I did my testing before, I had this set to GPT 3.5 Turbo. It did not work correctly. I'm not going to show you what happened, but it did not work correctly with GPT 3.5 Turbo. But when I went to the GPT 4.0 Mini, it did work. So we're going to keep it there because that's where it needs to be for this to work properly. This role description says provide the exact response generated by the action. Do not include any additional information. Your sole responsibility is to deliver the response as is produced by the action. That is key. If that's all you want is what you provided from your make.com automation that's being sent back as a result, this exact verbiage has to be in your role. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in a name. I had to switch out the Google Drive that I was using because it said I was doing automated requests, which I was just sending things to it and of course using it to play back the file. After doing it a number of times, Google Drive shut me down. So now I switched over to S3 from Amazon. And now I'm testing that out. That seems to be working fine. Once that was completed, everything is working as it should. So we're going to go ahead and run through this. You can see that it's all set to go. It's running, it's on. So we're going to go ahead and clear out the chat. And then we're going to put in a name. We're going to put in Thompson and then let it run through and see what we get. Interesting thing about this is that if you come over to here, you can see that it's run through. Well, you can't see it from here. You have to come over to this side and it lets you know if it ran through or not. And it looks like it did successfully. So we come back over here and it is done. There's the name. All I do is just click on here and it will play.
The name is pronounced Thompson. One more time, the name is pronounced Thompson.
All right, that's working the way that it should. That is how you set up an action, your own action, inside of Pickaxe.